Hey folks, Adriana gave me a couple of posters she had in her closet that I could put up behind me. So they're just up with tape, so I don't know. We'll move them around as time goes on. I don't know how long I'm going to be able to keep putting up one video per day, but since I already started, I thought I'd try to do another one today. Tonight at 7:30 Pacific time, we are going to have another online meeting of the Angel City Zen Center. You all are welcome to join. I'll put the link below and you can go and join that. I don't know what I'm going to say to those guys. So I'm running out of stuff to say is the problem. But I had this thing that I've kept since back in the pre-virus days on my to-do list, and it is what is going on with my hair? It's all growing. I was about to get a haircut before this stuff happened, and then all the hair cutter places have shut down, so I guess I'm stuck with this. Anyway, this is from, I hope I'm getting this right because I didn't check it just before I did this. I had the question separately, but these are 10 questions for Brad Warner, and they came from a German. Somebody's been translating my blogs and things into German, and he had some kind of an online forum or some such thing in which he collected these questions from people who read that in German and then translated the questions to me in English. And I'm going to try to... Oops, almost broke the phone. I'm going to try to answer those. So, number 1. What do humans, animals, and the universe itself gain by your existence? By mine personally, or by one's existence? They gain their existence would be the answer. They exist because I exist because they exist. We are mutually interdependent on each other. The idea that we each have our own independent existence that doesn't have anything to do with anybody else, that is a falsehood. So everything in the universe exists because I exist, and I exist because everything else in the universe exists. Number 2, how does sitting around uselessly, he means shikantaza, said in the parentheses, help others and fulfill the first bodhisattva vow on saving numberless beings, when instead you could just work at a charity for the same amount of time? That's a kind of a common question people ask, and I could probably do a whole video on it, but let's see if I can do a short answer, which is the best version of the Bodhisattva vow I ever heard came from my friend Rob Robbins, and I've quoted him a lot on this one. And he said, I vow to save other beings from myself. So that is how shikantaza, just sitting, can help you fulfill the first Bodhisattva vow. In fact, it might help you fulfill it even better than working at a charity for 40 minutes or whatever it is. And you can still do that if you want to anyway. But that's you become centered in yourself, and by doing so, you become less of a problem for other people and other things. And that is how you help. And I think it's a very good way to help, and I wish more people would pay attention. Number 3. As a Buddhist, can you cause suffering to prevent greater suffering? This is a slippery slope there. I think the more immediate answer is don't cause suffering in this moment. Usually, if you are trying to prevent greater suffering later by causing some suffering now, it involves kind of trying to plan things ahead. I suppose the current situation we're all living through right now could be seen as an example of trying to use small suffering to prevent greater suffering. So we're all suffering from loss of income, loss of job, loss of being able to go anywhere, so that we don't have a greater problem in the future. And as I've said, I support this. So one has to kind of play this carefully. But as a general rule of thumb, I think if you go into a situation thinking I'm going to cause small suffering in order to create a greater good in the future, probably not a good idea, as a general rule of thumb. as always, there are exceptions. How does your religion differ from other religions? What are the similarities? Good Lord. That is a huge question. Is Buddhism even a religion? There's one guy who comments on me constantly who says it definitely is. I tend to think it's not. But I think the major difference between Zen and most other forms of religions is the thing I mentioned in my previous video about belief. Most religions I've ever encountered have a big emphasis on belief. So, in fact, if you want to define that religion, you define it by saying these people believe that, etc., etc. In Zen, it really doesn't matter what you believe. So you can believe anything. You can be a Christian and practice Zen. You can be a Muslim and practice Zen. I've met all kinds of people who practice Zen along with other religious beliefs, and they don't believe in the Buddhist ideas as such. It's a big question. So, yeah, something like that. Number 5. I have a feeling Zen Buddhists don't believe in rebirth and nirvana. If you don't believe in that, what is the use of practicing Buddhism? Well, whether Zen Buddhists believe in rebirth and nirvana is an open question. I imagine some of them do, some of them don't. Shohaku Okumura made a really interesting statement in one of his books about he's a Buddhist teacher, a Zen Buddhist teacher, a long-time practitioner, and he said something about he doesn't necessarily believe in rebirth, but he kind of hopes there is because he has been working on translating Dogen into English, and he realizes he'll never be finished in this lifetime, so he hopes there's another lifetime ahead for him. So I think most people in the Zen tradition are somewhat skeptical, and I have to say skeptical in the sense that the way people usually understand terms like rebirth, reincarnation, is something that I would think most Zen Buddhists would question. I think I don't know. I question it. On the other hand, I sort of think maybe something like that. And nirvana, my God, nirvana as a place to go when you die or something. I don't believe in that, but maybe there's something like that. And I practice Buddhism because I practice it. Number 6. The Heart Sutra sounds like a description of nirvana to me. How does it differ from the Theravada view of nirvana? I'm not sure I understand that question. I don't know if the Heart Sutra is a description of nirvana. I never thought of it that way. And I don't know what the Theravada ideas about nirvana are that well, enough to make any sort of contrast. I haven't studied that philosophy in great detail, so I'm sorry I don't get that question. Next. Is the life of an animal worth more than the life of a human being? Well, probably to the animal it is. Okay. Number 8. Does Buddhism answer questions that other religions don't? Well, yeah, I guess Buddhism asks other questions too. And what those questions are, I don't know. Could be a lot of things. But, yeah, I guess so. For me, it did. For me, I couldn't get why. Well, I wanted to believe in Christianity. I was raised in a sort of Christian country. Both the United States and Kenya would be mostly Christian countries. And so that was the religion I was around the most. And when I thought about becoming religious, none of my family were. Christianity was the one that seemed like the one, right? But the answers I was looking for weren't there, so I found them in Buddhism, and so I guess that's the answer to that one. Can a European or American really practice Buddhism in its truest form without having the historical and social background of Asian countries? I think so. I devoted a whole chapter in, was it either Don't Be a Jerk or It Came From Beyond Zen, can't remember which one, to this question. Oh, no, wait a minute. What's my latest book called? Letters to a Dead Friend About Zen. That's the one. I have a whole chapter about that very problem because I was making these lectures in Europe when now that sounded like somebody who doesn't speak English speaking English. I was making these lectures, so I was giving these lectures in Germany and other places, and that question came up a lot. And my answer's in the book, but let's say in short form, I think so. There's things you can understand about Buddhism by living in an Asian culture where Buddhism has been there for a long time that you probably wouldn't get. I don't know if those are the essential things, but there are certain aspects of why things are done in a certain way that might be informed by having lived in an Asian culture, like I lived in Japan. But I don't know if that's necessary. It just gives you another little perspective on things. So I think you can fully appreciate and fully do it. It was developed in India, moved to China, moved to Japan. India and China and Japan, just to take those three, are all extraordinarily different cultures. If you're kind of a myopic Westerner, you think, oh, it's all Asian, but there's a huge difference. So if it could cross from India to China to Japan, it can cross from Japan to America and Europe, no problem. And finally, why is Zazen more useful on the Bodhisattva path than other forms of meditation like Anapanasati or Vipassana? Anapanasati. That's funny. It's, the Three Stooges used to make this kind of fake language that they do sometimes, and it would be like Anapanavana.
Oh, yatta bene pucha timene charonja. Ah, hamzalaka patnilak. Anapanasand.
Dogen answers by saying that Zazen is the fundamental practice of Buddhism and links it to the original practice done by Gautama Buddha. Whether you believe that or not is kind of up to you. I tend to believe it, but there's sort of historical stuff in there which you could maybe make an argument that that's wrong. But Dogen says it's the one essential practice, Zazen, a kind of silent meditation is the one essential practice of all Buddhists. There you go. Those are short answers to complicated questions, and maybe this will, get your mind off of things for a few minutes today. I hope you enjoyed it. As always, PayPal and Patreon links are below. Like I keep saying, if you want to take a break from donating to me at these times, I understand everybody's having financial difficulties. Hopefully we get over this quick enough that people can start getting back to their jobs and things. So, donate if you can. Don't donate if you can't. It's cool either way. But I want to remind you that those links are down there, and that's how I make my living, because I got to do that. So, see you next time. Bye.